pretty good against Huey's pretty much mono green deck.
And you might think that playing those zombies main is a little bit greedy, but one thing to think about, Jeff Hoogland is playing those zombies main in his top 8 invitational deck as we speak. This has begun. William Huey Jensen, Arbor Elf, pardon me, Avacyn's Pilgrim is down there, not Arbor Elf, that's an Avacyn's Pilgrim.
Right, so Huey's deck is mostly green. Mono green is probably a little bit of a misnomer. It does have 2 Luxodon Smiters in it. I think outside of that, it actually is mono green.
Yeah, the thing it does also have is some Gavney Townships to activate, and in conjunction with Colonian Hydra, a Mondo combo.
So out of the gates, we see both players, just establishing early creatures. We see a Cartel Aristocrat from Mario. Huey makes an Avacyn's Pilgrim with no turn 2 play. I would say right now in this matchup, Mario is going to have to get some sort of pressure on because Huey's going to make threats that are near impossible to deal with if this game goes long enough.
We look at that Colonian, Craterhoof, Behemoth.
Well, there's a lot of trample in that hand, for sure. And that was Lifebane Zombie by Mario that took out one of the 2 Colonian Hydras.
And there's a Elvish Visionary that's joining the team.
Plays the first. Looks like he's hit a second. He hit a Sun Petal Grove off it. He didn't have the Sun Petal earlier, I believe, so that would be his 5th land.
Next turn, unless that Avacyn's Pilgrim dies, a Colonian Hydra, kind of the card that has the most speculation about it coming out of M14. 4/4 when it comes into play, quickly becomes much larger.
Well, this is a spectral force that untaps itself and actually has even more upside. Last time we saw a 5-drop just vanilla green Trampler play was back when there was that card, Spectral Force, which was a 8/8 trample for 5 that didn't untap sometimes. This one has the potential to do so much more.
We see no disruption of Jensen's Avacyn's Pilgrim. We are going to see the potential. I believe there's a 5th mana. There it is. Takes 2 from a Temple Garden. Colonian Hydra. There it is.
All right, so currently just a 4/4. Remember, there is this window where Mario can Tragic Slip it. For the most part in the game, he can. He would
Speak of the devil.
Right, he just drew one. Remember, the Colonian Hydra is really powerful because it wins the game on its second swing. And the first swing is for 8, the second is for 16.
There aren't very many things that can do that. It's just a lot of damage.
Well, especially not cards that are played fair. There are very few 5-drops that can win the game in 2 swings.
I mean, usually you're talking about a card that's cheated into play like a Progenitus.
Right, yeah, he wins in 2 swings. He also costs Wooburg.
Wooburg, we see a Blood Artist, comes into play, Cartel Aristocrat, sacrifices Cartel Aristocrat, and we see the Tragic Slip, get rid of the Hydra.
And yeah, with that Blood Artist trigger, Huey's going to go down to 4 life here. That's 1 off the Blood Artist and then 4 more from the attack. His life total is very precarious.
He says that's it. That's it.
Right. Mario had at least 2 more damage on the board with Cartel Aristocrat and Blood Artist. It was going to take a lot for Huey to get there.
There's a lot of cards in Jensen's sideboard here that he could use in order to actually get some real effective interaction with his opponent here. One of them is 3 Garruk Relentless. Now, why would that be useful, you ask? There are just a lot of very valuable targets in Mario's deck, including cards like Blood Artist or Skursdog High Priest, which killing them is fairly easy and leaves you with a very reasonable Garruk left over.
Yeah, Junk Aristocrats in a lot of ways is a cogs deck, where it's like each card is very fairly priced, but when the cards all work together, then they start to make very powerful interactions. So any sort of pinpoint removal, like a Garruk Relentless, can be really good against the deck, especially something that can be repeatable removal, which Garruk also takes care of.
Now, a lot of what Jensen is trying to do is put down basically enough mana to be able to have something like a Craterhoof Behemoth finish the game in one fell swoop. But, of course, Mario Diliberto, besides Tragic Slip, he has Garruk Relentless of his own, he has Abrupt Decay, he has ways to kind of basically pling away at those couple of mana creatures that get Jensen to that place, not to mention his main deck Lifebane Zombies. What else does he have?
Well, out of the board, it depends what Mario thinks of the matchup. He probably doesn't know too much about his opponent's deck. The Abrupt Decays are fantastic against Huey. Whether or not he brings them in, we'll see. Appetite for Brains is also excellent. So what I want to kind of point out with Huey's deck is the curve that it has. It has 12 1-drops, which is 12 mana creatures at 1. It has 4 Elvish Visionaries at 2, and after that, its curve is basically 5, 6, 5, 3, 6. So it's really just, it's got these 2 phases. It has the mana phase, and then it has the Haymaker phase.
One of the things that's really interesting about the way that this deck is built, a lot of people said this, Colonian Hydra, I understand that it's good when you swing, but it'll take you a whole turn to get there. Why wouldn't you just play Wolf or Silverheart? Well, that's what he's doing as well. Yes. He's playing 4 Wolf or Silverheart in addition to the Colonian Hydra.
Right. No, so he's really just trying to power out a threat as early as possible. If Mario recognizes that, I think Mario should be bringing in Abrupt Decays. An Abrupt Decay can really be a time walk against Huey's deck. That said, this is a pretty unknown matchup still. I'd be surprised if Mario has a concrete strategy already thought of.
One of the things that's a shame from Mario Diliberto's perspective, if he had Golgari Charm in the sideboard, that would be a monster.
Right, so he doesn't have the Golgari Charm. He does have a 3rd Lifebane Zombie, which is about 100% for him to bring in.
Yes, absolutely. If you're just joining us, I'm Adrian Sullivan here in the booth with Matthias Hunt. On the left, Mario Diliberto with Junk Aristocrats, undefeated today. On the right, William Huey Jensen, a also 7-0 record. These 2 players near the top of the standings. Jensen at number 1, and Mario sitting at number 5 in the standings as this round began.
All right, so we talked a little bit about the different strategies Huey's deck can take post-board. He does have an Acidic Slime plan also, which obviously doesn't happen here. Outside of that, he has Strangleroot Geists and Tree of Redemptions for different matchups, but I really think you hit the nail on the head that it's Garruk Relentless that he wants in this matchup.
Absolutely. I can see an argument for 1 Tree of Redemption coming in as a target for the flipped Garruk to go search for, but I would not want more than that, and I'm not even sure if I'd want the first one. And then the other thing, though, Strangleroot Geist is actually very good against an opponent who might be trying to flick away at all your little creatures, so I can see Strangleroot Geist as well.
Right. So in this match, the thing is, each of them has a little bit of utility. Tree of Redemption can maybe stop a Blood Artist combo kill. Strangleroot Geist is very resilient to removal. To be fair, Junk doesn't play too much removal, but it does really clog up the board and leave Huey time to cast his Haymakers.
Okay, both players shuffling up, having a little bit of discussion. Jensen will be on the play. Remember, in game 1, Mario did Lifebane Zombie him. Only 2 in the main deck, but it was very effective there. A 3rd one in the sideboard for Mario. I also like what you said earlier, Matthias, about the real power of Appetite for Brains. If you go turbo nothing, it's a very sad thing. You're like, oh, mana, no spell because you got rid of it.
Well, Huey's deck is still kind of a ramp deck. It has 3 components. It has lands, it has ramp, and it has finishers. And for every hand to be good, it has to have all 3 things. If Mario can get rid of one of those 3 things from the hand, then he stands to be at a pretty good advantage.
And we see a beginning of a near mirror opener. Both of them running mana acceleration.
Right, the mana acceleration is so much more important for Huey's deck. Remember, he's playing a ton of things at 5 mana or more.
One thing I really like about Mario's list, we see that Avacyn's Pilgrim in play. He has 2 Pilgrim and only 1 Young Wolf. Personally, I always thought that the extra Young Wolves were greatly diminishing in value. You see, look at that explosion of mana.
Right, okay, and this is, what you're talking about. There's just no fear, no fear of Golgari Charm, or no time to play around it for Huey. Golgari Charm would be pretty backbreaking here, because he doesn't have it. Now he's starting to make a Garruk Caller of Beasts, possibly, or a Wolfier Silverheart on turn 3.
Okay, what will Mario do on this next turn? A lot of options, obviously.
Well, he does have the turn 2 Abrupt Decay, which, is good in the matchup for its ability to take out mana creatures, except it almost seems fruitless. There's just so many mana creatures right now. Taking out one just doesn't seem like it's making that much progress. Nonetheless,
one goes away.
He is going to do it. He picks the Avacyn's Pilgrim to potentially take Huey off white mana. He hasn't seen any cards that require white mana yet, but now he does see one with Gavany Township.
Gavany Township, excellent in this. Look at what can happen with a Colonian Hydra and a Gavany Township. Put 1 counter on everything, and then heck, why not double it?
Well, yeah, it does make the Hydra swing for 10 that turn instead of the original 8. Really, just I think Gavony Township is an excellent inclusion in any mana elf deck, especially a deck with 12 mana elves.
It doesn't just make the
It's
Colonian
on
Hydra.
each creature,
Each
right.
creature doubles the tokens.
And so Mario is going to make a Blood Artist and proceed then to hit his removal spell. He Orzhov Charms the Colonian Hydra.
Okay, that takes a lot of life out of Mario's total, but it's well worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, we have the Orzhov Charm there. And Huey's gonna in a way that you'd expect a ramp deck to do. Huey's really just gonna try to present more threats than Mario can answer. And we see Elvish Archdruid, and in this case, is a Lord, does pump Huey's team.
On the next turn, if that Archdruid survives, he is going to have access to a lot of mana. That'll be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana at least.
Right, it's enough for a Craterhoof Behemoth. You might see him hold off because you don't want to tap all your creatures to play Craterhoof Behemoth, but he'll be able to cast any spell that's in his deck at that point.
Blood Artist, Avacyn's Pilgrim, Doomed Traveler, and 3 mana versus a Elvish Archdruid, 2 Arbor Elves, and land.
All right, so Mario can possibly deal with a threat. He's choosing to counter race the hero. We see a swing with Doomed Traveler and Avacyn's Pilgrim. He's going to make a Skurstock High Priest, and we'll see what route he chooses here. He's at 9, so he has to be pretty careful with his life total.
Passes it back. Blood Artist, a way to gain some life, but these are big chunks of damage that can come in from Jensen. 1, 2, 3 mana from that. 4, 5, 6. Is this going to be Garruk? It is. It's the 6-drop Garruk, our newest Garruk, and he's going to put Craterhoof Behemoth directly into play. Come in for the kill.
All right. So
Boom.
Garruk at 6, basically just a ritual almost there. He cast Garruk at 6 so that he could make the Craterhoof at 8 and still have his mana creatures untapped. Was able to swing for lethal that turn.
If you're not sure, let's bring up that Garruk so that we can see what it looks like. The thing about the newest M14 Garruk, all of the abilities in a mono green deck, particularly one that can ramp into it, all of the abilities are really, really good. The first one of those abilities gives you a +1 to reveal the top 5 cards of your library. Any creatures go right into your hand.
Right, so it's a Lead the Stampede if you played back in Mirrored and Besieged. That's his +1 ability.
Yep.
Usually what you expect to see him play. I think we got to see
the -3.
It's very rare.
Dramatic entrance.
Not very rare, but yeah, it's a dramatic entrance that you would see Garruk, the turn he's play and -3.
Yep.
But we did, we saw a situation right there when that's exactly what you want to do.
And when that Craterhoof Behemoth came into play, that is 4 elves in play besides it. One of them tapped, but 3 elves in play besides it. So that ends up making it a lethal trampling attack as the Craterhoof Behemoth gives everybody trample, everybody gets bigger, they all come on in, and that leads to a dead Mario Diliberto.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of formats, Craterhoof Behemoth has kind of earned honorary elf status. In Legacy right now, tapping elves to make mana to cast Craterhoof Behemoth is a pretty common thing as well.
If you're just joining us, I'm Adrian Sullivan here with Matthias Hunt. This is the StarStateGames.com Open Series featuring the Invitational. We are in the Standard Open. Make sure to join us on Twitter at SCG Live and the hashtag SCGINVI.
All right, so we see going into Game 3. Really, what Huey was able to do in that game was to use a lot of extra early mana. I mean, he presented 6 mana on turn 3. Mario actually had an Abrupt Decay to take him off one of those mana sources, but just with that quantity of mana creatures, Huey can really just take control of the game early, and I think that's what his deck's trying to do. It'll be a little bit harder for him to do when he's on the draw this game, if Mario can have a good interactive start. Particularly, Mario would want to do something like Tragic Slip, Huey's first mana creature.
Okay, Mario now on the play. One of the things that a lot of people don't know about William Huey Jensen, if you aren't a really old school player, you've never really seen him play most likely. This might be one of your first opportunities, but while William Huey Jensen has been on the ballot for the Hall of Fame for many years, last year he came quite close. This year it looks like he's probably going to make it. but he didn't go over the top on any of those early ballots. He wasn't a slam dunk, largely because his resume, he had some good Pro Tour finishes. He had a Pro Tour win, a Masters win, but it was a team Pro Tour win. And one of the questions is he good enough for the Hall of Fame? Well, all of the old school players consider William Huey Jensen one of the best players that has ever lived. If you talk to John Finkel, if you talk to Bob Maher, they'll talk about so many game situations with this player where he said, you know what, I'm going to make you scared of me. And they were like, he is somebody to be worried about playing against.
Right, well, a lot of people are saying he was someone who would have been an inclusion the first time. Last year's Hall of Fame class was very strong, though, and it turned out that he ended up just a couple votes short. Hasn't had too many big finishes in the last year, but I think people are just saying, you know, it's kind of odd that he didn't make it the first time, and in this year's class, he's probably a favorite to get there.
Yeah. At least I would say that the odds are good for him. It's not a LSV in the bag kind of situation.
Right.
I have sat on the opposite end of that stair more than a few times, and it can be a little unsettling at times. Mario, just paying attention to his own hand. Mario playing his own game. He's no slouch here. 7-0, nothing to worry about for him here. I mean, he's got a 1, 2, 3 of 4 tragic slips, 4 abrupt decays. We saw that was brought in after board. He's got 3 life-bane zombies. He's got 2 appetite for brains. He's got a lot of cards he can use in this matchup.
Right, so he really just needs to control that early game from Huey. You know, he needs to get that appetite brains for the Garruk, or get that tragic slip for that very first mana elf. Really just needs to disrupt one of those aspects, either take away the early mana or take away the late game threats, and he should be just fine. If he misses at taking away any of those, though, unless he reassemble all 3 of those pieces, the game's gonna be very hard for him.
We see a swamp past the turn from Mario. A little elf, will it die?
And
yes, it does.
So step 1, you know, attacking the mana creatures. Depending on, it could be really strong depending on how many mana creatures Huey has.
There are 22 lands in William Huey Jensen's deck. We see a Doomed Traveler. Yet another mana creature? Yes, indeed.
Right, so yeah, Huey plays an Arbor Elf, so second mana creature. Remember, he does have 12 in the deck, so keeping him up all of them can be pretty difficult. But Mario now starts to go to work at the life total.
I see a Voice of Resurgence in Mario's hand. I'm not sure if I actually like Voice right now. I also noticed that Mario, on the play here, misses a land drop.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty tough for him. One of the things that he'd want to do with this hand is hopefully make a 5/5. If he draws a Cartel Aristocrat, he'll be able to do that. But he's going to need somebody to get a fast clock because Huey's mana is starting to ramp up at a really fast pace.
Right. We see an attack for 2 here. The Elvish Archdruid turning the Arbor Elf into a 2/2. And now, if Mario can drop a sacrifice creature like a Cartel Aristocrat or a Varolz into play, he will be able to make a 5/5 demon.
Yeah, I think
he's got it.
He does have it. I think we might see. Okay, we actually are going to see a Varolz. So he's going to go the aggressive route for a 5/5. He also had an Abrupt Decay and had a chance to Abrupt Decay the Elvish Archdruid, but I think he chose not to do that play because even if he kills the Archdruid, Huey could still make a turn 4 Colonian Hydra if he had the card.
You know, I'm not sure about letting an Elvish Archdruid live.
Yeah, I mean,
right
it's risky.
Now.
It's risky, for sure.
Right now, we're talking 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana. If a Garruk comes down, the Caller of Beasts, he could just, you know, get on the phone, find 5 elves.
Right, so he could get 5 elves, but at the same time, you know, Huey's deck doesn't really have a way to tangle with a 5/5 flyer. That puts him on a pretty quick clock. You know, Huey's gonna have to have that line of just a lot of damage right now if he wants to be able to race these demons.
I'd like to welcome Young Pyromancer to following SCG Live. Young Pyromancer, not only a new card in M14, but SCG Live's newest follower.
Young Pyromancer, actually a card that we saw Sam Black playing Legacy. Is he on?
Colonian Hydra, 4/4.
And that's the only play he makes right now. It looks he's going to pass the turn back. It's questionable whether or not that's enough pressure to race these demons.
This first demon swing will knock Jensen down to 13, and he might have some friends come on in as well. We'll have to find out. Mario Diliberto pondering his choices. I see a Voice of Resurgence.
Yeah, it looks like it's a Voice of Resurgence and an Abrupt Decay, and not a fourth land, so he's gonna have to pick between the two of them. Because of Voice and the rolls, he does once again have the ability to make a Demon token, but he is worried about that Colonian Hydra, and for good reason.
Well, Colonian Hydra can just do, as you mentioned earlier, 2 swings, you're dead. That's the kind of territory that you would usually expect to see saved for Wooburg Progenitus.
Right, so the thing is that if you look at the flying 5/5s, Mario can say, okay, I have 5 this turn, maybe I have 10 next turn, but that's actually not 18. So he needs 3 swings currently to win the game, whereas Huey only needs 2. So,
okay.
so if he can't race the Hydra, he's going to have to answer. He's going to have enough chump blockers or something to take care of it.
We see another activation here. This time Varolz is activating the ability to make the demon a little bit bigger.
So it looks like he's actually found the line for the turn 2 clock. If he makes, by making this demon into a 6/6, he can now Abrupt Decay, say, an Elvish Archdruid, make a demon token, and then next turn be able to stack a creature, scavenge onto a flyer, and swing lethal for 12.
Mario passes. During upkeep kills the Elvish Archdruid.
Yeah, I'm not sure why he's waited until upkeep. I mean, it's not going to punish him. It's really the same thing. Unless Huey's boarded in something like he's boarded in Ranger's Guile. It didn't have anything to do with upkeep mana. His deck's almost entirely sorcery speed. But we do see from Huey a second Colonian Hydra.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Well, a lot of damage, but it's not 18.
That is 16 damage.
So when it attacks, it doubles the counters on all creatures. So that would just be 8.
Don't both Colonian Hydras double?
It's when it okay. So with Colonian Hydra, it's when Colonian Hydra attacks.
When it attacks. Never mind. When it attacks.
Right. So it would just be an 8 on the attack there, and it looks like Mario has found the line. He has 11 power. He has 12 power in the air on the board right now. Huey's tapped out. He should be able to swing for lethal here.
Well done by Mario Diliberto to remember to put a +1/+1 counter onto his demon from Varolz.
Right, and that actually, a really huge find for him. It's the only way for him. That was the only line in which he got enough damage across. Well, otherwise he would have to have drawn a land so he could play Voice of Resurgence and scavenge it otherwise. So that 1 damage from the scavenge Doom Traveler ended up counting twice. Once last turn, once this turn, to make just enough to make this lethal.
See a Voice of Resurgence. I think he's also in a class Blood Artist.
Oh, and that makes this the Blood Artist makes this much easier. It's already already has the kill, but now definitely has the kill.
The first time that Huey has seen defeat this tournament from the hands of Mario Diliberto with Junk Aristocrats. I have to say, I have not been a very big fan of Junk Aristocrats, but there are some card choices in Mario's deck that make me start to like it. One of them is Avacyn's Pilgrim, and the other one is Lifebane Zombie. I really like seeing those cards in the main deck of this. That extra little bit of mana acceleration, that extra little bit of card advantage, that I like a lot.
Yeah, he's cut down on a couple things to make room for those. I think traditionally there's a second Young Wolf on the list. He's cut down on his Garuks and his Abrupt Decays to make room for those cards.
I am happy to see less Young Wolves, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I'm very happy to see Young Wolf go. The cutting on Abrupt Decays and Garuks is bold, I would say. I'm not sure it's definitely a meta call. Right now we saw he was really rewarded game 1 for having those Lifebane Zombies.
One of the interesting things, I like looking at last-minute changes to decks. You can sometimes see a deck list have some scratch marks on it and see, oh, this is the card they changed. It looks like they last-minute added a Young Wolf, and it also appears that Garruk Relentless